Hello, hello again, my beautiful, beautiful friends. How are you doing? My name is Brian, and I'm committed to helping people remember who they are. Today's topic is about slowing down and becoming aware of what season you're in your life and coming to a place of acceptance with this because we truly can't change the seasons that we're in. And by seasons, I do mean we follow a cyclical changing of the seasons with the equinoxes and the solstices. All right, and there's smaller cycles within those bigger cycles, within bigger cycles. Everything is cyclical here. The nature of energy is that it spirals. The question is, are you learning the lessons that you need to learn and upgrading in certain areas of life every time you go around the spiral? Because if you're not, and it's okay if you're not, you're going to keep going around in similar cycles until you grow, until you learn. And there's no rush, all right? We all learn in our own time. We all learn certain lessons in our own time. Sometimes it takes years for us to learn a particular lesson on how to love ourselves or love others better, or how to have more patience, or how to have more discipline, or how to have more fun, how to let go, you know? And when we learn and become aware of what our life is trying to teach us in a particular season, we move that energy up. And so then life can become an ascending spiral of energy in your expansion journey. So it really is about learning from what your life is trying to teach you right now. And understand that as your circumstances change, as different things start to reflect in your reality, if you really pay attention, you'll see when seasons start to change. You'll see when the lessons start to change. The more we can become aware of even our surrounding environment, looking at the weather, for example. All right, for many of us, when we enter the winter solstice and you look outside and it's cold and the trees have gone dormant and the leaves have fallen and the grass is brown and, everything is basically in hibernation. Everything is coming to rest. Everything is going through a season of death before the renewal of rebirth in the spring. And that is a time for many of us to slow down and rest. And in this particular year for me, the solstice, which was 6 weeks ago, something like that. This was a massive, massive death period for me, meaning really big wounds came to the surface over the couple of weeks before the solstice and the couple of weeks after the solstice. And even on the solstice itself, I remember it was one of the most painful times of my life that I've experienced in a while. There were many cycles coming to a close there, and there were many deep wounds that came out. There was self-hatred and self-loathing, things that really reminded me of more difficult and painful times that I've endured in my life. And those parts still needed to be seen and expressed even a handful of years later. And it was just time for them to come up because I was finally ready to hold space for them. And thankfully, you know, God moved me out of where I was and into a place where I was able to be in solitude and be in that hermit mode. And I was able to then express those things. But it was because I was so aware of what I was going through personally as the seasons were changing that I was able to recognize what this season was about. And so after those few weeks of just deep depression and painful emotions coming to the surface and needing to be seen and loved and forgiven, I've really been recovering for the last month, you know? And in fact, after all of that deep emotional purging and mental purging that occurred during those times, a few weeks later, I went into a very deep physical purging where my nervous system was just in pain. There were, old areas that have had chronic pain throughout my life started to flare up and have inflammation. My skin became painful. My temperatures weren't regulating well. I was having flu-like symptoms. I was experiencing extreme pressure in the third eye, and I also had a deep purging of the throat chakra, where it was just my throat was it was hard to talk. There was tightness, there was scratchiness, and in fact, that's still healing. The throat part is definitely still healing. I had a heart contractions. It felt like it was just hard to breathe. It was like it felt like there was a tightness up here, and it was just a all total cleansing of all of my energy centers, and it followed this deep healing. And in many ways, I expected that to happen. I expected this purge to happen because as I continued to be more aware of the cycles of my life, the more I realized that when I go into deep healing and have deep emotional purging, the physical follows. And so the only times I've been sick over the last few years while I've been doing very conscious healing work on myself has been when I go through these periods of deep healing and then sickness follows. But it's because I'm aware of what I'm going through that, in a way, I get prepared to understand what's going to come next. And I would say these past couple of years for me, almost every season has been about letting go, calming down, slowing down. And I think that's really the message for the conscious community and the awakening community today, is that we need to slow down. We need to calm down, So many of us were pushed into awakening by suffering, by anxiety, by things just not feeling right, our world just not feeling right, our relationships not feeling right. Everything had become so overwhelming, it become so miserable, and that brings you to awakening, because eventually it's about you getting so frustrated with the way things are. And that can lead you to beautiful realizations. But then, of course, the healing has to take place. So if you've been on an awakening journey, know that your healing is happening not in a linear way. It's happening over time. It's happening so that it can be felt and integrated in waves rather than all at once, right? Because it would just be way too overwhelming to happen all at once. So our healing is taking place over time. But that doesn't mean there aren't going to be seasons of prosperity and abundance and great joy and new relationships. But we have to go through those seasons and those cycles of letting go so that we can allow these new things to come in. And it's important not to avoid what you're going through, or, I feel like we try to be more hopeful and optimistic and look at the idea that we're creating our reality. And really, we are co-creating our reality, because it's not like from this vantage point, we're in total control of the whole process. We're not. We're here to learn to surrender. We're here to learn to trust. We're here to learn to go with the flow of things. And why is that? I don't know. This is just the experience we're having. And it becomes obvious when you look at anytime you've ever tried to force yourself to be in a different season than you were. It didn't go well. It doesn't go well. When we try to force things, it does not go well. When we accept where we're at, when we actually allow ourselves to accept where we're at and to learn what we're meant to be learning, to focus on ourselves, to focus on what am I feeling? If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling down, don't try to change that. Do things to take care of yourself so that it's more manageable, but don't try to change what your body is trying to process. The only way to change it is to actually embrace it and feel it. And that takes slowing down. That takes being willing to sit with yourself and to sit with the discomfort. As opposed to what some people put out there is nothing wrong with going through a season of lower feelings or maybe not being able to feel as much. Sometimes our system needs time to reset, to recalibrate, to come back into some type of equilibrium, some type of balance. And occasionally, that'll be a period of rest. And depression doesn't have to have such a negative connotation to it. Like maybe you have sadness and grief that has been unprocessed that needs to be felt. And also, I will say this, if you do have grief that needs to be processed or anger that needs to be processed, remember that you don't really need to know the reason why it's there. You just have to feel it. That's it. All you have to do is be willing to feel it. Feeling is what it takes to heal the emotions. Now, if there is a strong theme that keeps coming up in your mind, maybe it's related to the grief or the anger or whatever you're going through. And maybe there is something there that needs to be forgiven. Maybe there's something there that needs to be let go. Maybe you need to forgive somebody. Maybe you need to forgive yourself. Maybe you need to forgive the past. Maybe you need to let go of what happened or let go of a certain idea of when something should happen and just come into peace again with yourself. There's a reason that calming down, that having a relaxed state of being feels good. There's a reason for that. Truly, in the journey of knowing yourself and mastering yourself, one of the greatest states of being that you can come to is one where you just feel calm and peaceful with yourself, where you feel safe within yourself, where you feel comfortable within your own skin. We are meant to go with the flow. We are meant to follow what we are being guided through. And when you allow yourself to be led, it brings out different qualities of you. If you want to be a leader, it's always going to be by example. And a good leader allows themselves to be led by their life, by what is guiding them. We are here to trust. We are here to surrender to this process. It's a state of spiritual maturation to become okay with what is, to accept what is, to not resist what is. Because understand, the more that you slow down and calm down, especially calming down and slowing down the mind, the more that you can actually become aware of what this season is trying to teach you. And sometimes it takes many seasons in succession to learn how to actually slow down. And this is especially true when we start to recognize that the true nature of reality is much more fluid. Things are changing. Everything is energy. Everything is consciousness. It's not so fixed. It's stable, but in a different way. And in some ways, that can be a little bit scary or a little bit alarming. When you're learning that you're the creator, the co-creator, this mind, this egoic mind, can start to develop a fear that we're going to create something miserable, or we're going to get stuck in loops and not be able to create something new, and we're not going to get to something enjoyable. It's always going to be this letting go. It's always going to be this suffering. It's always going to be this solitude and hermit mode. But it's not. Because you have more guidance. When you go through your awakening, this is something that just came to me now, I think. I feel like we are meant to have time to... It's a more gentle process than you realize. You're being given time to learn to trust that it is safe for you to be the creator. To get this mind, this vessel on board with the idea that you have more free will than you thought. And now you're being opened up to it. But just because you have such great free will and there are higher parts of you that are guiding you to the free will path that feels best to you, there's not so much pressure on you. Think about it. When you were more unaware, unconscious to the true nature of reality, of who you really were, you weren't struggling to create your reality, and yet you were still the co-creator at that time. You were always co-creating your reality. You've always been co-creating reality. Forever, for always, for all time. And it's safe to. It's safe to exist. And I feel like many of us are learning how to integrate that. I know I have been for a couple of years, and especially the last year, really since I took a heroic dose of mushrooms, and that really gave me confirmation to the mind that reality is not so fixed. I was able to observe reality shifting around me. I was able to observe different things, and from a very beautiful state of being. And then, of course, at the end of that trip, went into these fear loops where time kind of fell apart. And so that was very alarming to the mind. That was like, is this safe? Is this okay? You know? And it's taken a lot of time to process all of that. And I'm grateful that I've been given such time. And it's interesting because it feels like when I've needed more time to rest, to sit with myself, things have just naturally worked out where I had more time to rest. Even certain plans would just, or someone would ask me for help with something, and then I'm feeling tired, but I'm gonna do it, and I wanna do it, I wanna be there for them, and just suddenly there will be a cancellation for no reason, but it's like a little gift, a little sign of like, a little showing of like, hey, you need this rest. It's more important than whatever this thing is. Take the time to rest. It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. There's no rush. Everyone has all the help they need. You're all good. All right? You don't need to put yourself through something extremely strenuous to prove yourself or to be a good person or anything like that. You're allowed to flow. You're allowed to take time to take care of yourself when you need to. And if anything, this awakening is awakening to how loving reality really is. But that means we have to put our focus on things that are loving, on perspectives that are loving. We have to put our faith and our trust in loving perspectives. Because there's a lot in the awakening community who put their focus on more negative or fear-based realities. They're putting their perception and their focus on what could go wrong, on the things that are bad or the things that need to be fixed. And it's just more of the same from before you were awakened, right? It's like, what were you putting your focus on then? Putting your focus on negative things and fear-based news and politics and angry comment sections on social media and things like that. And then you go through an awakening, but instead of moving towards more love, you're moving still in a way that brings you to more negativity. That's never going to bring you more peace. In fact, it's going to bring you more delusion. It's going to bring you more psychosis. It's going to bring you more suffering. Our greatest power in awakening and becoming the creator, or I should say just becoming aware that we're the creator, is where you put your attention and focus. And the more that you can move your attention and focus to beautiful truths and wisdom and perspectives on reality, the more your reality starts to become filled with that type of energy. We don't need to look at dystopian realities and ideas that people are putting their attention on. We don't need to focus on that. We can be aware that they're doing it. We can be aware that they're doing it, but we don't have to partake in it. We don't have to put a lot of focus and attention on it. We can simply accept that some people are going through those lessons, that that's what they're learning right now, that's what they're dealing with right now. But it doesn't have to be your focus. It's not your responsibility to change what other people are going through. There are an infinite number of parallel realities. There are an infinite number of parallel earths. You choose which one you align with. And the more beautiful a reality you create within yourself, the more beautiful the perspectives and perceptions that you put your attention on, the more beautiful your reality will be. You will align with a version of Earth that moves towards more peace and more joy and more freedom. The more that you embody that, it's your choice. You're never on the same Earth plane. It is constantly changing. Reality is more beautiful and more free. Reality respects your free will more than you can know. There are some souls who will move towards and experience more dystopian realities. Sure, they exist as experiences. Of course they do. You're not in control of their journey. You're not in control of anyone's journey except your own. What do you want to experience? Do you want a more peaceful, beautiful, divine, heavenly experience, a more blissful experience? That's your choice. How you direct your focus, how you direct your attention, what you put your focus on, that's the energy you're aligning with. Because there's not just one reality. There is an infinite number of realities. You're the one who chooses what to align with, and you don't have to be afraid of what others are doing. Your journey is not about what others are doing. It's not about changing others. Understand that others are a reflection for you to learn from, but they are not your responsibility. Saving the world isn't possible because you're not meant to save someone else. You're not meant to change someone else. It doesn't mean that you won't be a part of their journey of saving themselves, of coming more into alignment with what feels good to them. But you only do that by being the example of someone, the demonstration of someone who has claimed back their power and their attention and their focus and learned to apply it in a way that is preferable, that is enjoyable, that is beautiful, that is wonderful and blissful and heavenly. It's your choice. Your choice. You decide what you align with, and just trust, have faith that the external's gonna be fine if you are truly fine. I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. I hope you have a beautiful day. Remember to slow down, take note of what season you're in, and I'll see you in the next one.